Hey there, hi there, ho there Disney fans. I'm Lucy, part of the team here at 37 Disney Street, and welcome to another episode of Talking About DVC. Today we're going to be discussing how much it costs and is it worth it?
Talking about DVC.
In today's episode, I'm going to be using a lot of my own facts and figures from our recent purchase at Saratoga Springs. But before I do, I just want to give a little disclaimer, because I am aware that this is a luxury product that we're talking about, and at no point do I want to sound privileged or entitled. I feel continually grateful that we have the freedom and the ability to do that, and I don't want to ostracize anybody else who may be watching this. Being a DVC owner has been a lifelong dream for both myself and Hugh, my husband, and we're just really glad that we're able to share our experience with you. So let's just get straight into it.
Talking about DVC.
Okay, if you're asking the question, how much does DVC cost? There are three things you need to take into consideration. Number one is your upfront costs. Number two is your ongoing costs. There are ongoing costs, don't think that there aren't. And then number three is your surrounding holiday costs. These are the costs that you will have to pay whether you're DVC members or not, but that you need to factor in if you're planning on going to the same place on holiday for the next 30 years. So let's get straight on with number one, upfront costs. If we're talking upfront costs, we're basically saying how much did the actual contract cost when you bought it. And now I talked about in my last video the way the price DVC contracts is a certain amount per point, and a direct sale per point might go at $200 per point, and a resale contract might go at $98, $96 per point. And it can go for anywhere in between those two extremes. I told you we'd be talking about our finances. We bought 150 points at $100 per point at Saratoga Springs. So that gives you an upfront cost of $15,000 for the contract. On top of that, you also have closing costs, which can vary according to the value of the contract itself. And if you're wanting to finance it, if you're getting a personal loan or you're paying for it on a credit card, you've got to factor in fees, interest, and any other lending costs that you may have. So our closing costs were $629. That gave us an upfront cost to the resale company of $15,629. Converted into pounds, that is £12,034. And then on top of that, we managed to find a credit card that gave 24 months 0%. So we wouldn't be paying interest, but there was a fee for the credit card, which was £271. Of course, you can make different financing decisions for you. Sometimes it'll be cheaper to take the interest, sometimes it's cheaper to take the fee. But that makes a total of £12,305. I'm going to repeat though that was only our experience, and that was for a resale contract at Saratoga Springs. If you choose a different resort, a different contract, if you buy direct or from a different resale company, your upfront cost will vary from ours. But that's our experience, just so you've got a point of reference. So that brings us on to number two, ongoing costs. Now this is basically just one thing, and it is management fees. You have to pay a fee per point to Disney for the upkeep of the resort that you own in every year. So for us, the current 2021 price is $7.11 per point, and we've got a 150 point contract. So that means this year we will pay $10,066, or roughly £821 for the year. Of course, course, your fees are going to go up every year. So when you're looking into your finances, you know you've got this yearly fee coming and you know it's going to go up incrementally every year. It'll usually be roughly in line with inflation and roughly in line with the way that hotel rooms are going up. Also, and I think that this might be unique to our situation in this year, because we've had the pandemic this year and there was a long period when the resorts were closed. We actually got a small rebate on our, I think it was something like 20 cents per point or something, but we got a small rebate on our dues this year. That's unlikely to happen again, but it can happen that if there's been a variation in what they estimated they were going to spend and what they actually spent, they can give you a little bit of money back sometimes. Don't bank on it, but it can happen. So that brings us on to the third thing I said that you needed to think about, which is your ongoing holiday costs. Now, you might take this for granted, but if you buy something like DVC, you are really committing to those every year or every 2 years. You're going to do a Disney holiday. And if you're coming from the UK, that means that you have to factor in transatlantic flights. You have to factor in getting your park tickets every year or every other year. And this is a big bulk of spending that you are pre-committing to. The DVC points only pay for your accommodation. So if you're deciding whether or not to buy and you're pricing up what you can and can't afford, you need to factor in this is only accommodation and that all those other costs will keep on coming and they will keep on going up every year. So even though that isn't a DVC cost in itself, the mere fact that you're going means it is a cost that's associated, and I think that's the one that you have to think the most seriously about almost. A little extra point though is that you might want to think about the money you won't be spending. If you've bought direct, you're going to get a lot of discounts on merchandise and food, even annual passes. And you don't have to go in the parks. You could just use the hotels and the resorts. You don't have to buy park tickets all the time. Just something to think about when you're looking at DVC membership.
Talk about DVC.
So then, here's the big question. Is it worth it? Let's be honest, I priced up DVC for 3 or 4 years before I actually bought it, and every time I priced it up, I ran the figures and I decided, do you know what, it probably wouldn't work out cheaper for us than just paying as we went. And then one big thing changed, and that's what convinced me that yes, it would be worth it for us. So I'm going to break you down to my way of thinking, and then maybe that might help you decide whether or not it's worth it for you. So this was why we decided it wasn't worth it to start with. When we booked Disney holidays from the UK, we booked moderate resorts, not deluxe, and we had always managed to get the free dining. And then thirdly, for us, is the down payment as well. We didn't have a down payment sorted out. So what changed? The pandemic hit, that's what changed. And we cancelled one whole Florida holiday, which meant that we had that amount of money. You know how much Florida holidays cost. We had that money back into the savings account. In my head, it was ready to book the next Disney holiday, but then I got to thinking that would work as a down payment on DVC. And that's when I started looking at it again. And the big thing that changed for us was they had stopped the dining plan. It is still stopped at the point that I'm recording this. We presume it will come back again, but my prediction is it will be a good couple of years before it's offered as free. So if we are wanting to keep going on Disney holidays every year, every 2 years, we might have 1 or 2 holidays where we have to go without the dining plan. And that makes a big difference to the cost of your holiday. So in my head, the cost of our holidays had just shot up. So I needed to run the figures again. And I did. And I loved every moment because I'm a maths geek. Okay, so this is how I worked out whether or not it was worth it for us. When we bought Saratoga Springs, we got a 34-year contract, but I did not want to run my figures over 34 years because it's too big a number. I can't imagine what I'll want to be doing when I'm knocking 70. So the number that I wanted to look at was 15 years. In 15 years, my daughter will be 21, and I suspect that might be the time in life that we start looking at doing different kind of holidays. I'm fairly confident we will want to keep doing regular Disney holidays till then, but that might be the point where our priorities changed. So I thought, okay, if I keep this contract for 15 years, is it worth it? Now, if I get 150 points a year for 15 years, that'll be 2,250 points. So I'm taking the upfront cost that I paid and I'm dividing it by 2,250 to get, for my crooked loosey reasoning, what my price per point is. And I worked that out at £5.34 per point. So that's how much in real cash I have paid for the points I've bought, individually dispersed over the 15 years. But then you've got to factor in that every year you pay fees on that. Now, I can't predict what that will be in 15 years, but I can predict it will rise with inflation and it'll be regular as clockwork. So this year, the fees are the equivalent of £5.48. So that means each point is worth £10.82. You can disagree with how I've done that in the comments below if you like. I needed a tangible way of working out how much I was spending as I spent points. Now I worked out, using the charts that DVC give you, that our average holiday, May is when we like to go on holiday because my daughter has a 2-week break from school and it's my birthday, that we'd spend about 225 points on a 12 or 13 night stay in a studios. If you times the £10.82 by 225, that means that 12 or 13 night holiday would cost us, in real money, £2,434. Now compare that to what we were spending, which staying in moderates was about, the last holiday we booked was about £3,000 for the accommodation with the dining plan. And then they took the dining plan away, so it was £3,000 just for the accommodation the next time we booked it. So we've already saved just under £600 staying in a deluxe compared to staying to a moderate. So we've got deluxe for £600 cheaper. Now you can appreciate how if you had the free dining, that would no longer look like a good deal. Because you'd saved 600, but you'd lost 600 in the dining plan that you wouldn't be able to book. And so that's why year after year I kept looking at it and then going, no, this isn't going to work. But now, no dining, it feels like a no-brainer. So let's say I was going to stay in a deluxe and I was going to pay cash for a deluxe. That room, I'm looking at the Polynesian because, it's a Polynesian. The Polynesian is way upwards of £6,000 for a fortnight holiday. You've saved about £4,000 and you've got the top deluxe hotel for the equivalent of £2,434. Happy days! Now that's my experience and my maths based on the contract that we bought. But let's be honest, there's going to be circumstances where it is not worth it for you. So if you usually stay in a value resort, you're probably going to struggle to make this math save you any money whatsoever. Or if you buy a different contract, if you buy direct or you buy resale at somewhere like the Grand Floridian, which is going for like $190 a point, you're really going to struggle to find these kind of numbers. So at that point, it's whether you're going to prioritise lifestyle and you want to stay in that hotel, or whether you're going to prioritise money saving. You could stay off site, which would be cheaper. I think that the Disney lifestyle was a big draw for us. Being able to experiment and stay in all the deluxe hotels, that was really where our priorities were. But if your priorities are different, then these figures might not add up. I need to make that clear. This is how I worked it out, that it was worth it for us. Doesn't mean it's worth it for you. Have a think. And then the final cherry that got plonked on top of the is it worth it cake was the ability to resell. I told you that my scary years was the 15-year mark, and there's a really robust resale market. That's what I bought mine off. So it might be that in 15 years time I could sell this if I decide I no longer want it and pretty much get back the money I've paid for it, in which case I will have stayed at these hotels every year just on the dues, which this year, £820. I mean, it's amazing. It might be that we don't want to sell in 15 years, that we use the full 34 years, that we go every single year for the next 34 years, and you will be looking at one very happy, retired Lucy. Just want to point out my daughter did my nails this afternoon, so if you see these monstrosities flickering around, that's what's going on there. So that's it. In summary, the costs are your upfront costs, including lender's fees and closing fees, your ongoing costs, which is your management fees, and then finally, how much you're going to spend on flights and food and tickets once you're there. Take that information, work out a contract that you're looking at and find out what the point value would be, compare it to what you usually spend, and voila, there's your answer, I hope. So good luck for anyone going through that process at the moment. I have to say, doing all the maths and spreadsheet was one of my favourite bits of all this, but that tells you something about my character. If you've enjoyed this episode of Talking DVC, we've got more episodes planned, and the next episode we'll be talking about your home resort, why it matters, and how I chose mine. But if you enjoy chatting Disney, make sure that you check out our podcast at 37 Disney Street. We also have a Disneyland Paris show if you are a fan of Disneyland Paris. We have regular Disney trivia quiz shows. And a lot of this can be found on YouTube, iTunes, or anywhere else that you might access podcasts. So that's it. I've been Lucy, you've been great, and bye-bye.